been told by everybody up on this roof that they're all off the roof. I am on the roof of exposure 4. Got fire through the roof of the 5 million, the entire rear section.
Now remember, given the payday, has he been accounted for? Okay. 610B, that was the payday, 610B.
I'm here. We got a fire. 1.5-story, single-family dwelling. Fire shown from the second floor. Give me a second alarm on this.
Up to the top floor. I got people hanging out the top floor windows with a baby.
Commercial building. A lot of fire, a lot of smoke. Go ahead and strike a third alarm on my orders on this.
Got people on the front fire escape here with windows vented below them. We need somebody up there.
Yeah, let them know we got a job. I'm pulling up now. Second alarm, I got a 1-story single-family frame. Heavy fire showing from the attic.
So we're using all hands. We got one line stretch, fire on the 4th floor. Second line being stretched. Primary searches are underway.
Hey, welcome back to our fire engineering podcast, The Command Post. I'm Chief Rick Lasky, and usually along with my best buddy, Chief John Salka, but he is on the road, actually headed to see family. He's getting ready to go. They're getting ready to go spend some time with Brian and Rachel out in Wichita. Brian's on the Wichita Fire Department, Wichita, Kansas, and great place. We'll talk about some of the guys we know there in a second. So John will be with us next time, but we've got a great guest. He's a longtime friend. We'll get to him in just one second. This particular show, as with all of them, the Command Post on fireengineering.com. You can go back into the archives. You can find any of the ones we've done before. As you know, we don't work from a platform or a script or notes or anything like that. We just kind of we have a couple ideas and then we run from there. But if you're looking to get us out to your place, just give us a shout. We'll give you our emails at the end. We'd love to come out and visit with you and be honored to do it. But our very special guest is I've never heard of a guest before. But our very special guest is Chief Scott Thompson from the Colony in Texas. Scott, welcome, buddy.
Hi, Rick. Thanks for having me on.
Buddy. So you and I have been together a long time.
Long time.
We met. I know you remember this. For our listeners, you and I met a long time. You had just taken a chief's job in Lake City, for Lake City's fire district in Texas, just on the north side of the bridge, Lake Louisville. What year was that? Because we were in Plano with you.
Yeah, well, I went through your Saving Your Own program when you brought that. That's where I met you originally. And then I went to Lake Cities in 98.
Good God. Yeah, I was just saying, well, you and I met there because I still have that picture of us.
Yeah.
That we were there teaching. I think it was me, Sal, and
Curtis was with you.
Curtis. I'm trying to remember who else. I know it was me and Sal and Curtis, but it was a great day. That's when we first met.
Yeah. And then, you were doing the Saving Our Own in Plano, one of the first ones you did in Texas.
Yeah, exactly.
You liked to kill me. I remember that.
Along with a bunch of other people. But it's a tough class when you go through it. But so we met then. And then when I moved down in 2000 to take the chief's job in Louisville, you were still in Lake City as a chief. And I'll never forget this. We had a retirement going on in Louisville with the existing training chief. And you came by for a cup of coffee because you and I are both we love talking shop and having coffee and visiting, unlike some of the chiefs that hide in their offices with the doors closed and sandbags behind the doors and everything. But we were visiting, and I remember you said, are you going to go outside, you think, for your training chief? And I'm like, well, I don't know. We might. I'm thinking we are because, nobody really wanted to do it at the time there. And I'm sitting to myself going, God, would this be awesome if Scott Thompson wanted to be our training chief?
I tell that story all the time, Rick, and one of the better decisions I've made in my career, truth be told.
Well,
we had a lot of fun. Went to a lot of fires, had a lot of fun.
When you asked that, I went, you know what I'm saying? It's like that's like somebody saying Aaron Judge wants to play on my baseball team.
It was awesome. We had a great team, didn't we? And we had a lot of fun.
God, we had a great team, a lot of fires. Flipped that training division, flipped that department. You did such an incredible job. We could talk about. Well, let's talk.
We could tell that all day. Talk about stories with Eddie's guys building you the prop down there and stuff. Just all kinds of great stories. You remember that? And it was a surprise.
It was a surprise, and they wrecked their Chiefs' brand new excursion. To do it, they wrecked it. Sneaking out here with a trailer full of lumber from Virginia.
Talking about Eddie Buchanan.
God, we love Eddie. But so real quick, before a little thing popped in my head is remember you and I, when we talked about the concept of the Big Five when it came to training. Before we get, I got a bunch of things I want to ask you, just popping in my head right now. But it's hard enough to train as it is now, Scott, as you know, with all the mandates and all the different things we got to get done. And if you're an EMS department, you got to insert, especially ALS, you got to insert your EMS week in there, and then all your technical. It's so hard to balance all that. And you and I were always on the same sheet of music when it came to training our people on what they need to know and training them on the stuff that will keep them alive. And we came up, remember, and I'll just say with the Big Five.
Yep.
Once a quarter, you had to do a hose evolution, an SCBA drill, a ladder drill, a RIT drill, and a live fire burn. And for all the state people that are listening to this show, don't get upset with us, but you and I've always said, I don't care when's the last time we did chutes and ladders, salvage covers. Salvage covers, as important they are for salvage, and that's an important task we do, have never saved a firefighter's life. We want to know that our guys know how to stretch. Our guys and gals know how to stretch lines, search on their hands and knees, throw ladders, wear an SCBA, drag a firefighter out, get them out of a jam, and be inside in zero reduced visibility, stay oriented. And I remember when we pitched the idea, it was like, when I went to Calvin Allison, our union president. Calvin was a great guy. I said, so we want to switch from training Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays to 6 days a week. And he looked at me, I go, well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday be multi-coming drills, Thursday, Friday, Saturday be part 2 or whatever. And there was some hesitancy, but I think maybe it's the competitiveness, Scott, that you and I always appealed to with our guys. They took it and ran with it, didn't they? I mean, they had, in fact, they were training on top of the training, weren't they?
They were, Rick, and you're exactly right. And I think it was, but and you always supported training, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to come be your training guy. I went down from fire chief to training chief, but you supported it. And I think the guys started to realize the benefit of training, that we weren't doing it as, fill the time. It was quality training, and they saw the benefit, and things were going great at fires. And so they saw the payoff. And I really think that's what led to it, is we weren't wasting their time. We weren't bringing them down for 4 hours and beating them to death and just to say we did it. And we still use it today. And I will tell you this, the basic Big Five and what we call the first 5 minutes, what came from Alan Brunacini. He used to say the first 5 minutes determine the next 5 hours, are still the core of our training. And I'll ask some of my most senior captains, they'll say, boss, that's the reason why things go well, is those 2 training things right there. And you introduced me to the Big Five. But yeah, I think that's why they really took it and ran with it, because they saw the value of it.
Well, like you say, the competitiveness. I mean, you and I, especially the colony, you've got some great people there, and they fight fires. And when I say fight fires, they actually fight fires. They actually do it. But when they do it, they fight it with a coordinated aggressiveness. We used to say this, that our guys, both the county and Louisville, are a very safe, aggressive department. They know when to go in, when not to go in, when to go, stay in, and when to, to come out. But they get after it, and I think that competitiveness, Scott. Guys, gals in the fire service, they want to do good. Who wants to be on the shift, with the buffoons? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's like
nobody wants to be last place.
Yeah. And just like you said, all of a sudden now, lines are stretching better, guys are searching better, command is doing it. And I think all we did, you and I, was just kind of like fluff the sheets, if you will. It was like all of a sudden was like we set
a little structure to it, give it a little structure, explain the why. This is why we want to do it. And like you said, the men and women of the organization took it and did the rest. And you support everything I came and asked you for. You gave me, and I took it down there and at the training field, and the guys just did magic with it.
Well, nothing good or great happens without training in our business. You know that. We've been looking at line of duty vets for a long time, and a lot of times, sometimes bad stuff happens. We understand it, and great firefighters, are on the top, are on the roof right now, up in heaven, looking down at us and helping us. But quite often, that whole saying, New York City, I think it was Rescue 1, had the saying on the wall. Rescue 1, Rescue 3, I think it's Rescue 1. Don't let the ghost support training come back to haunt you. And so it was all about, let's concentrate with the limited amount of time we have, Scott, on what our people need to know to be well. But it was fun. And then I think when you went to the colony as chief, I told someone there when they called me, when you were in the process, and I said, number one, I can't be partial. If you ask me to be objective and partial, I can't because I love this guy. Number two, I don't know who I'm more excited for. You know, the people that live in the colony or the firefighters or for Scott Thompson. I don't know, because Scott, you and I, and maybe we could talk about this for a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bosses out there that don't get it. And there's a lot of great ones. And you and I've talked about this plenty of times where, it's like you've heard me talk about the squeaky hinge, right? All day long, the doors it squeak, squeak, squeak. It's always that bottom hinge, if you know building construction and how we get, and it just, all day long, it's driving you crazy, that one hinge. But there's two other hinges that do the same and equal amount of work, and you never hear from them. And there's just under 40,000 fire departments in the United States. That means there's thousands of great chief officers. There's a couple of misfits. But Scott, a lot of guys can't, I don't think they know how to pull it together. I think I don't know whether it's ego or they're uncomfortable or we don't train them or we don't give the tools. But speaking of training, I just saw, I always talk about dream training facilities. You go somewhere, you go, God, I wish I had this. God, when I was a train chief, I wish I had this. Now explain, is that in the works or is it approved? Or I saw these, my God, this training facility, talk about that for a second.
So give you just a little backstory. Land in the colony, as it is in Louisville and everywhere else, is worth $1 million a square foot. So we have we call it the training yard because it's so small. It's a half an acre, and we have some props on it right now, and it's by our shop. And what we did is, and it goes right back to what we were talking about, the Big Five. What we did is we have a bunch of individual props out there right now that the guys use to practice the Big Five. And one of my battalion chiefs, Garrett Rice, who's a A-Ship battalion, he's also our training guy. We don't have a full-time training guy. We started talking about doing this, and it was a vision. So Todd Shepard with Fireforge, he's out of I can't think of where Columbus. We got talking to him, and we were trying to figure what can we fit on this little bitty piece of I mean, Rick, you wouldn't believe how small it is.
Yeah.
And the dog park is on one side, and so working with Todd and his folks, we were able to get this. It's 9 containers. It's 3 stories high, and we told him what we wanted to be able to train on, and he built us a prop, and the price was reasonable. And so right now. So the stuff we have on there now to get through the code was classified as playground equipment. So all the existing stuff out there now, that's how we got through the permitting process. So the project right now is going through.
It is.
It's a playground for firefighters. So right now it's going through the city permitting process. It was a pretty easy sell. I've been there 14 years and we've had a strong history of training. And my boss knows that. And everybody who saw us out at the existing yard would see us out there all the time. And so when we asked for it, the boss gave us some money, and it was going to be a couple phases. This is just phase 1. And so he gave us the money for it, and we got these containers ordered. And as soon as we clear this permitting process, they can put those things in about 3 or 4 days. But it does all the things that we want it to do. So, it took a while to get it and to show that we were serious about training, because a lot of people build these huge facilities and they never use them.
Never use it.
Or if they go out, they use the parking lot. They never go in the building. And
right.
So we wanted to make sure that because the space is so small that we were able to do the things that we wanted to do. So we can do some mid-rise stuff. It's going to have a standpipe, some stairs. The first floor is set up what we call our Fox boxes, those small Fox and Jacob homes. You've been in a lot of fires over here in those. And so it's doing a little bit of everything that we want to do. We're very excited about it, and we think we're gonna have a good prop when we're done.
Isn't it amazing, though, what they can do with those containers nowadays? It used to be like, well, we got a container out there. Well, maybe we can burn. It is absolutely phenomenal what there are some incredible training facilities that are, used to be, I remember in Darien Woodward, we built ours all brick and mortar, the whole thing. We had the confined space prop, we had the burn room, we had everything, the multi-store, all that stuff. And it was, I'm like, we were trying to rub 2 nickels together to make a quarter. And you and I get to travel. We see some incredible. And that's when I saw this. I was so excited. I saw this. I'm like, I'm blowing up the pictures, looking at the different rooms and stuff, because now I want to go back to something you said. All these places, that build these great training facilities and never use them. I'm going to throw that back on the shoulders of the training officer. Maybe the chief, well, I doubt very few chiefs allow you to build that unless they don't use it. I think there's a lot of training officers out there that don't know how to use it, Scott. And you've got you and I, oh my God, you give us that. Look at what we gave you in Louisville, which was a rundown facility. It would be cool. And
but it was the nicest in the area, and it was one of the few that we could do live fire in.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we turned that into something special. It's incredible now with Seth doing his all assaults class among everything else. So to our listeners, don't ever look past that and go, we have to build like this Taj Mahal. You can build a Taj Mahal. In fact, I think there's sometimes more you could do with those, more configuration. I see some stuff, I go, good God Almighty, this is incredible. And especially
you can change them out, when one burnt. Remember we had the problem in Louisville. We had the damage because the fires were too hot.
Yeah.
And we had to condemn part of the building, put those pieces of I forgot what it's called, the fire resistive stuff. But these containers, if you burn one up, you pick it up and put another one in.
Oh, and so many places are
Aginite. That's the word I was looking for.
Exactly. Building that to where that's the whole process is once you burn one up, that allows you to smoke and heat everything else, you just get rid of it and get another one. And I think you pay more sometimes to replace the panels, in your burn building than you do for a whole trailer full with those panels. I'm just saying, we're
doing our whole project for under $500,000.
Oh, and
so we have the land. That doesn't include land.
So now if somebody wanted to see, I know it's on you shared on your Facebook page, but did you guys post that anywhere else? If one of our listeners wanted to check it out, or should they just go to your Facebook page?
Yeah, just mine, because I'm not allowed to have a city fire department page. They don't want every department to have a page. So or Todd Shepard with Forge Fire. I'm sure he's got it on his site.
Is he the one that posted it and you shared it? Or
yes.
Okay. So just go to Chief Scott Thompson's Facebook page. You'll find it if you're looking for some ideas.
Or send me an email. Look up my email in the colony and I'll get it to you.
Oh, that is it. I'm just telling you. I saw that and I got excited because there's so many places out there that don't have anything to train on.
Yeah.
Let alone how do you pull that off? So let's talk about that a little bit here before we get too far down the road. I don't know if there's a lot of guys and gals out there, Scott, that are wearing the 5 trumpets, the Chiefs, that don't know. I don't think they've wrapped their arms around the finesse they need at City Hall to go in and justify things. And one of the things we've talked about on our Hump Day Hangout that you're on our team, with us. I think I told you that one time they flew me into this place to help. I think you've heard the story before. I want to repeat it for our listeners. They flew me in to help a chief justify another firehouse with more people, so on and so forth. And flights were delayed. I get in, I get right to the I walk in with a council meetings in progress. And I sit down and the chief gets up to the podium and some council member says, he says, well, Chief, he says, I understand you want to spend this much on a firehouse. You have to hire this many people. You have to buy apparatus. This is like starting all over again with a lot of stuff. But the data I have in front of me, Chief, says that fires are down in the United States. Fires are down. Shouldn't we be going backwards, actually? If fires are down and the majority of your work is EMS, shouldn't we be looking? And this guy, and I think this has to do, Scott, with a lot of the lack of training and preparation we do for chief officers. The law enforcement has whole programs on how to market their mission. They take chiefs of police and they sit them down. They go, this is how you have to go to City Hall. We don't really do that, or we don't do it well. So Scott, he says to this councilman, he says, well, councilman, you see, we're the insurance policy that you never want to use. And I went, oh my God, I want to club them like a baby seal. I just was like, you got to be, I love baby seals. Don't get me wrong. It's a joke. I want to hit them with a Halligan. How about that? But I'm like, did you just say we're the insurance policy? I said, so you've heard me say this before. What he should have said was, Councilman, what years are you looking at? Because this guy was looking back to the late 70s and 80s till now, the heydays of when they were, how about just looking back the last 20, 25 years or 30 years? How about we just do that for right now and see what that takes us? And you know what you're going to find, and this is a fact, you tell this council member, dollars lost to fire are at an all-time high. the call volume numbers are down, but dollars lost to fire.
Civilian fire deaths are not going down.
Exactly. We lose roughly over 3,000 people a year. We've done a show on that before. If you go look back in the past 30 years, I think there's only 3 years, 28, 26, and maybe 2,500. There's 36, 32, 31. You go U.S. Fire Administration, they post those numbers. But yeah, okay, the numbers are down, but the dollars lost to fire, the quicker we can get somewhere, the more strategically we play. You've been doing this in the county. The more strategically we place firehouses. Let's talk about, the more joy we do as EMS. Wouldn't you want us there quicker for your loved one who's not breathing or whatever? I mean, so maybe we don't have to build a 9-bay station. Maybe we can build a substation that houses an engine, ambulance, maybe a spare rig, whatever. But, we never build them big enough for what we have. We never build them enough storage, by the way, but that's
right
another day. But I mean, Scott, I was like, and I actually felt bad with him because I'm looking at this guy. He's a good guy, but you look at where's the preparation, unless you sit through an hour and 45-minute breakout at a conference that helps you, that finesse that you need to be able to stand toe to toe with, God bless our partner, the police chief. But I was just amazed. That's what you said. We're the insurance policy you never want to use. And we're all about data, you and I, and statistics give us our backing. But I just think, Scott, there's a lot of people that just aren't sure how to, I think maybe it's an intimidation thing, or I don't know if you've got any thoughts on, I think they miss their mark when they go in and fight for stuff.
No, you're exactly right, Rick. And I think it's a combination of things. First of all, I think there's a lot of fire chiefs that don't understand fire operations. They don't know how to connect all the dots. They know we need a fire truck and we need this and that. But, I said this on one of our previous hump days. If you think about it, the largest investment made in any fire department organization is our firefighting and fire rescue capabilities. We don't spend more money on anything, beyond that with the fire trucks and the SCBAs and thermal imagers. So that's number one. If we want to show a return on investment, let's get really, really good at using that stuff, maximizing it to save lives and protect property. But I don't think a lot of chiefs know how to do that. That's why they're so uncomfortable with riding assignments and developing operating guidelines that have, pre-arrival considerations. They don't know what that looks like. So I think that's number one. Number two is they don't have a vision, that they go after the ISO and they get that. That's kind of low hanging fruit. If you have enough money and people to do that, right, and then they're going to go get all these camp programs. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those, but they're not specific as much to the organization. So if you don't have a vision that you can articulate to your bosses every day, it's putting a puzzle together, right? We need this, then we need this, then we need this. I mean, it took me 14 years to get to where we are now. But I always followed the same vision, and we would make adjustments at the time. So the boss is hearing a consistent message. He's not hearing something different every budget year because it's the latest or greatest. And I think that's where a lot of fire chiefs struggle. The other thing is, I don't think a fire chief knows how to articulate what success looks like in our industry other than response times, right. And I personally I think fires are going to go up. You talk about lithium ion batteries. The way they're building buildings now, just social responsibility of people taking care of stuff. I'm getting our guys ready for an increase in fire work. Still do a lot of prevention stuff and public education, but those things are going to continue. So I think you got to sell it. And some people may disagree with this, but one of the things I told my boss on day one is don't compare us to the police department. I said we're public safety, but we have two totally different missions, and so I don't want this, tit for tat thing. And that's helped us in the long run. But I just don't think a lot of fire chiefs understand the long game to where they can communicate it to the members of their organization, but also to city leadership where it makes sense and they see how all the pieces fit together. You think that's maybe a part of it?
I think you're right on. I think they drive around and they don't see a whole lot of smoke in the air, and they get caught up in, what do I have to cut next? And, budgets and all that stuff and so on and so forth. And it's all very true and genuine for a lot of people with, maybe a city admin that is trying to get you to be good responsible wise, fiscally wise, to make sure you're doing what you can with what you already have, which I'm a big one on. You need to be able to do more with what you already have before you do more with less. But
maximize those capabilities.
I think you're exactly right. And, nobody cares. I told this one county administrator, I said, you have two, this was a place where I referred to their engines. You heard me say, it says engine couples, because they were 2-person engines. And this is no reflection on the guys and gals that make up those 2-person crews, because you think they want 3, 4, 5? Absolutely. But I said, so let's look at right now. Scott, what did you spend on your latest pumper?
Oh gosh, pumpers now are $900,000.
So, okay, you spend $900,000 on a pumper. You put 2 firefighters on it. They drive to a house. Mom's screaming, my baby, my kid, my whatever. And you go, well, we're going to get them out as soon as we can. I have to wait for another pumper to drive here from another firehouse in their Still district. So we have enough people to go in, because there's just 2 of us on. You drove just shy of $1 million thing on rubber tires to that apartment building or that residence or that business with 2 people. And I said, so if you're okay with that, you're a better person than I am, And they go back to the whole, well, we only have 1, officer patrol cars. Yeah, but there's a lot more of them. I'm just, I like what you said, that we both love our law enforcement partners.
Yeah.
And we both provide public safety. I've always said the same thing you said. We just have 2 different avenues to get there. So you can't really compare us to what they do or they to what we do. We both serve a purpose. There's times where we're going, where's PD? Well, you got an ETN PD. We need PD here now. And there's been times where they're going, is FD en route? Is FD en route? So we both do things that are needed, but
here's another question. Rick. I mean, what is enough fires? I mean, to me, if a fire department goes to 1 fire a year, that's a pretty big freaking deal to the people who host that fire, right?
Right.
They shouldn't have to suffer because we say fires are down and we're an EMS department that occasionally goes to fires. We're still driving that $900,000 pumper. We're still wearing $7,000 of protective clothing. I mean, what is that magic number before we start taking fire seriously and maximizing all the stuff that you mentioned? And then 2 is tough to do, but I think a lot of departments right now are struggling with that 3 going to 4-person staffing.
Right.
But then you talk to them and they get that 4th-person staffing and they weren't any better than when they had 3, because they don't train. It's just another person taking up a seat, and they're still mopes trying to figure out how to do it. And I don't want this to sound arrogant at all, but I'm going to just, because it connects the pieces. But I'm at a point now where I'm going to my boss and say, boss, for 14 years, we've been committed to training. I believe we have maximized the system to the best of our ability. The only way we can do more is if we get that 4th person.
Right.
And that we have trained and we have shown, and we got the numbers and the data, and we just did, remember we did the company preparedness drills in Louisville. We just did them here. And we're getting data like we can do tasks, 48 seconds faster, a minute and a half faster. And so having that kind of information, but if I just add another person on the rig and you're not getting anything more than 4 people showing up instead of 3, well, no wonder you're having issues.
Yeah, exactly. Because the same people you said before that don't understand riding assignments, tool assignments, seat assignments, because they're intimidated. I always thought it made a chief's job a lot easier. Both of us love Jerry Wells. Jerry Wells, battalion chief of Louisville, retired, teaches out there. Dad was
had lunch with him the other day, Rick.
Yeah, Dad was a legendary, BC in Dallas, and his dad's another one of those guys that probably be insulted that you call him a legend, but he was very much loved there and respected. But I remember, I don't know if you remember this one. We had the apartments over there off of Bel Air, and we had a good fire, good second alarm fire. And Jerry comes back, walks in my office. He goes, I think I've arrived. I go, what do you mean? He goes, this is the extent of my orders this morning. He said, I think I've arrived as a BC. He goes, this was the extent of my orders. I got out and I went, oh. I go, isn't it cool where your guys know what they're supposed to do? Isn't it cool when you and I have said this for years. You could ask either one of our rookies. I'll pick on Louisville. What do we send a 1 alarm? 3 engines? An ambulance with 2 firefighter paramedics, a tower ladder of 5 guys, a battalion chief of the aid, and a safety officer. Okay, well, the first engine attacks a fire. Second engine assures the first engine has a positive water source. All right, after that, they bring a second line. Second line can back up, second line can cover exposure, second line can fight fires. Third engine is the RIT team. Truck gets there. Captain is jumps. You got a 4th century search team. Driver is part of the vent team. 5th guy is the outside vent man. Ambulance pulls over it. Unless there's a patient, they park it. Driver runs down, helps the drivers make his hydro. Other one's assignable. The captain is driving the BC, handles his tactics board, handles his accountability board, talks because you show up, the BC starts running. All that stuff done.
But it took you 2 minutes. It took you less than 2 minutes. If I'm a new person in the department, to explain how we deploy on a single family dwelling. But I hear from chiefs all the time. Well, you're not having your people think critically and are not being problem solvers or becoming robots. I can tell you, if I even mentioned in the colony about going back to the way we did things, I've had mass exodus. And we have people now, everybody's struggling with this recruitment and retention, Rick. We just hired one person. We had 140 applicants. We took 20 to the interview, and there's a good portion of them. It's always quality training, and they like the riding assignments. They like the engine and truck deployment model. They want to know what they're going to be doing because they want to get good at it.
Yeah.
And imagine if the Yankees said, okay, whose turn is it to pitch tonight? Oh, I hadn't pitched in 6 games. No other organized activity does it like that. But in the fire service, we're sticking to this. Everybody should be able to do everything well. And as you and I know from traveling around, guys don't know how to throw ladders. They don't know how to stretch a line. They can't force a commercial door. They're not even going to attempt vertical ventilation. And I don't get it, but.
No, I think it goes back to what you said with the hesitancy due to training and knowledge. And I'm like, and you and I've said this for decades, and not in a downgrading manner, but if you let your firefighters play firefighter, let them play firefighter, let them do their jobs. And I'm not saying New York City or Chicago are perfect, but they do a lot of things right. They do a lot of things right. And John always jokes, we're just at Georgetown, Texas. George, great people,
great bunch of
bosses. And he was talking. So the whole day, you know what he does? Engine guy making fun of the truck guy. He goes back and forth, hammer. Why do truck guys cut holes in the roof so they can see what the real firefighters are doing? All that stuff. We go back and forth, but at the same time, he's actually enforcing what you just said. When he says, I have truck guys that don't know we bring water to the fire. They think the fire just goes up and I'm showing up. I have engine guys that don't know that truck guys come, they're task oriented. And you and I've said this, how many times there comes a line of duty that's when we don't stay on task, when we don't stay, when we deviate, some may call it freelancing. I call sometimes it's hyperness. People just can't, instead of just like Curtis Burt, our good friend, the chief down, the ops chief down in Pearland, working for Jay Taylor. When Curtis was up from Illinois, Scott, I remember sent him to the roof of the fire. And I turn around, he's downstairs pulling ceiling. I said, Curtis, I said, put a hole in the roof. And he looks at me and he points up. He had already cut a hole in the roof, came down, met with the ops chief, got another assignment. He didn't just freelance. He knew that once he came down, what do you need now? Holes cut, got working off of tasks. But when it's the bag of marbles hits the ground, and you said it before, watch the video. Some of these videos, it's like, oh my God. It's definitely, it's an old phrase. The right hand does what the left hand's doing. And these are people's homes that are on fire. Some of them have their lives. They have people, family who are trapped. And there's no time for us to say we'll be better next time. We don't get do-overs,
And Rick, I had a chief that you and I both know. When I was talking about this, he was anti the way that Colony and Louisville do everything. And he said, you mean to tell me I can't expect all my members to pull a hose and throw a ladder? And I said, that sums it up right there. That statement sums it up right there. But you know as well as I do, if you're riding a truck, you're sizing up the building differently than if you're riding the engine. You're thinking about different things, right? And these chiefs are quick to say, well, vertical ventilation is too dangerous and all these. And if somebody falls through the roof, they said they never should have been on the roof. Yet the problem was those guys haven't been on the roof in 7 years. They don't know anything about the roof, and now they're assigned to the roof. They fail at that position. It's not a matter of vertical vent. It's a matter of putting unrehearsed people in a very dangerous position. Everything we do has risk, right? Let's give our people an advantage and let them mentally prepare for that stuff before they have to do it. It brings down the anxiety level, which plays into that whole survival stress reaction thing. what you faced with John Wright on Flower Mound when you brought, he was experiencing that. All those things are real deals, but fire chiefs don't understand that. Some of them, not all of them.
I think some of them, and I agree with you. But going back to what you said earlier too, it's like I just think it works so much better, Scott, when if you're the first due engine, you go, we're first due, we got the fire. Second due is going to make sure I have water. I mean, why would you not say? I mean, why would you have to? Especially with some of these guys that have a BC that's not. I'm 3 minutes out. I'm 2 minutes out. I'm like, really? What does that have to do? Park your car, get out, or get your command board and get your Crayola set out, whatever you have to do, and start marking up papers and boards or do what you got to do. But God, if the first engine doesn't know what they're supposed to investigate and or attack the fire, in order for us to have a sustainable fight in our firefight, we need water. Well, the second due engine, like you, how many times we heard this? One of your engines or Lewis Engine 5 will say engine 5 is on a hydrant. Doesn't mean they're on a hydrant sitting there looking at it. That means the hydrant has been flushed, it's plugged into a rig, and they have water coming out of the hydrant into their pump, into the impellers of their pump. And that tells the second due engine, okay, we don't have to worry about getting them, laying a line to them or laying out from them or whatever. Being able to show that sustainability with our water, know what we could do with tank water, but with our water, I just don't get the third engine getting there pretty quick, especially on top of each other's RIT. The truck, if you look at the seat, you go, okay, I'm in this seat. I know what I'm doing today for this, or this. I just think it makes the whole process easier, not complicated.
But you know what the fad is now, the popular thing, and my respect for Alan Brunacini.
Right.
But the blue card thing now, Rick, is taking us back to the battalion chief assigns everything. Everybody goes to staging and has to be told. And I've hired 2 people that are very experienced firefighters. One of them, as a matter of fact, is getting recognized in Houston by the 100 Club for a grab. But one of the reasons he left is to get away from that blue card system, because he was on the first in truck. They were staged. Nobody brought him into the fire with people trapped. And so we're almost moving that other direction. But again, now I got a nice package program. I don't have to put myself out there. I teach my guys this and I'm safe, right? I'm covered. And so we're moving in the other direction on that, boss. And we're in the minority as far as pre-arrival and an engine truck deployment model in the suburbs. They do it in the big cities, but in the suburbs, that's a tough fight.
Well, and I agree. We've talked about this before as well, that we need to train our people how to do everything. So 1 truck, 2 truck, 3 trucks, whatever, as busy as you guys all are working together, automatic aid, mutual aid, your closest truck company could be next town over, be away or whatever. Everybody, you need to be able to grab an engine. Engine 3, when you get here, I need you to do the primary. Engine 3, when you get here, I need a RUFO. They need to be trained in dual purpose. You know what I'm saying? All that kind of stuff. And you can still get that done. If you're back if you're training your people, I mean, good God, train your people on how to stretch hose, how much water comes out of the nozzles, how to stretch hose. The faster we get water delivered to the seat of fire, the quicker our problem goes away. The faster. Safely, efficiently. Speed comes with efficiency. Efficiency comes with training with muscle memory. Boom, boom, boom. Same thing. I just don't know when it got so complicated, Scott, that we can't train our people on, let's talk fire behavior, let's talk building construction, and then let's get to stretch and line. Let's talk ventilation. Let's talk search. Let's start throwing ladders. There are some places that are so busy jumping out of helicopters or carabiners that you've watched them, they can't stretch hose into a building. They can't, watch the YouTube videos. They walk around at a fire, like John would say, like they're at a picnic instead of a rapid pace, like we talk about the guys from Stockton who work at a rapid pace. Your guys, Lewis, I mean, they move with purpose instead of like a dazed and confused look. And in the absence of good, strong leadership, in the absence, I guess there you go. We got clean cabs working on everything else. We need to make command caps and put a little like go back to the telephone booth. They used to have an FDNY for the extra guy in the ladder trucks, and put an inset commander. So every single engine pulls up has a boss that can tell everybody what to do. And I and obviously I'm being extremely sarcastic, but you and I both agree, Scott, firefighters are some of the most progressive, some of the most creative, some of the
smart, very smart people.
Some of the most fascinating people out there. They want to be led. They're screaming to be led. They want labor contracts. They want rules and regulations. They want SOPs, SOGs. They want you to tell them what to do, and they want you to get the hell out of the way. When we get in their way, they stumble. When chief officers get in the way of their people and doing their jobs, their duties, the micromanager, the people that just can't, are they going to make a mistake every now and then? Are they going to pull up? Yeah, I think we've all done that. But there is a town, one of the many towns next to you. I actually played a recording in class where the battalion chief tells the truck crew during the day, it's a big house over there, tells the truck crew, cut me a hole on the leeward side of the roof. And I wanted to go, so he must be in his fire vehicle with his latte machine and all his this
3 blocks away.
3 blocks away, looking at an IFSTA book. If you got to tell your guys to cut a hole on the leeward side of the roof, I'm just saying.
Why do you have truck bosses and engine bosses, right? We can order them to the roof, but not on the roof, right? That's a truck boss. Yeah. He decides if they go on or not, where they cut, how they cut.
That's right.
How many we're going to cut.
If you don't train them, if you don't take the time to train them, but I think it goes back to, again, and I'm not trying to knock, because there's some great chiefs out there. There are. Great. Like I said, there's thousands of great ones, a couple nitwits. But when they're limited in their experience, so someone who was a good firefighter, was a decent company officer, was a decent battalion chief, maybe a deputy assistant, makes chief of department, and maybe, especially for a department that may not go to as many fires, which the majority of the fire departments in the country, if you want to get to just under 40,000, okay, the majority don't go that many fires. If you want to count fires, you know what I'm saying? I'm just saying some are busier than others. Now, even more so, it's like they have this chokehold on the troops. And I think, you and I see it, we teach and consult, that guys are frustrated. They're like, just let me do my job. Just let me show up. Just let me, and
but it goes back to training, Rick, and you started it out. So we all want to be safe. And these chiefs tout a safety culture, clean cabs and all that other stuff in the name of safety, yet they don't support training. Name one thing that impacts safety more than training. I can't think of one. Nothing. And I think Chief Salka would agree with us, because I know he said it. Nothing is more important in training. Yet they do the minimum training a month, the 4 hours, they check the box, and they move on. And everything takes priority over training. Well, you can't say you are a safely operated department if training is not a huge part of what you do. I'm sorry. I'll debate that all day long.
Scott, some of the guys we run with, our circle of friends, we've told the stories. I was just telling at Georgetown when John brought up, he goes, tell the story from 235 engine. When Curtis and I years ago, one of the many times we were in New York City riding out, you've been out there a bunch of times yourself. And I'm riding 235 engine. John Cullen is a lieutenant. He was on the squad as a firefighter when John was lieutenant in the squad 1. Chief Dennis Cross was Battalion 57 that day, got killed, acting deputy on 9/11. That firehouse, we went to 14 fires in 12 hours. I still had the
still trained.
Okay. And I remember we talked about this at midnight, in those firehouses is like noon. They're all having coffee, sitting with their, I know not supposed to, but sit with their bunker pants on because they go to so many calls. And John Cullen goes, you've heard me tell this story before, I think. He goes, hey, Rick, tell my guys, explain to my guys about the lover's knot. They call the handcuff knot the lover's knot. So I talked about the handcuff knot and the story behind John Nance. This is at 2:30 in the morning. 2:30. And Scott, what do they do? All of a sudden, we get up now we were tying the knot at the table. We get up at 2:30 in the morning. We're on the apparatus bay floor, and they're hauling guys up through the fire pole hole. The only guys would be like grieving, we were training at 2. I mean, I'm telling you, and again, I keep saying we've said this so much because you and I do so many shows together. Why is it always the departments that run the most fires do the most training, and the departments that run the least do the least? You would think it'd be the opposite. The departments we know, Scott, that run their wheels off fighting fires train the most. And the ones who run the least train the least. It should be the opposite. But when you watch some of those guys,
it's almost scientific. You're exactly right.
Oh, you watch those guys, Scott, and your guys in Louisville, John and I did that show a while back. Why do you always talk about Stockton, California, Wichita, Kansas, Louisville, the county, places like that? Because they have their shit together. They train. I like that kind of competitiveness. I like the guys that go, you know what, nobody, look, we pull up, if they're coming around the corner, we're getting water on the fire first. We want to get there safely, quickly and safely, because you don't cut response times by driving fast, slow. You cut response times by getting out the door quickly, being prepared and all that stuff.
But also, if I know those big five really well, that doesn't take my attention. I'm not so focused on stretching a line, throwing a ladder. It's second nature, and I can pay attention to the conditions. I can listen. I can, do all the other things that I need to do that are really going to challenge me. I'm not so freaked out about doing a search.
A guy can walk up to you. What do you need, Chief? Because they're saying, you know what, Rick, I need a primary on a third. I got this second go, and I'm already putting my mask on, nodding, talking like I'm putting a stocking cap on in wintertime. Like I'm putting my
It's what we do.
It's just
what
like,
we do.
Yeah, okay, gotcha. So
Yeah.
Third floor, okay, good. Anybody else? Okay, we're all right. We got Division III search for you. Gotcha. Boom, off we go. But when you have somebody who's flipping around and trying to grab this and looking at their all that. Now, once in a while you got to check maybe your straps twist and stuff. But when there's a lack of muscle memory, when there's a lack of redundancy, when it comes to how we train and what we do in the way of our skills, you have a son that's a Marine.
There's no substitute.
Oh, how many times do you think Marines practice? What do they say? Every sailor's a firefighter. Every Marine's a rifleman. The commandant on down is how many times do you think they shoot their rifle? Hey, how many times you got it, Scott? 10 times. Good. You're good. Go ahead. We're taking Afghanistan. No. It is. I mean, it is. Let's go back to what a lot of guys can equate to the NFL.
Yeah.
They practice the same plays hundreds, if not thousands of times, the same moves, everything. By the way, to people that don't think roll call is important in the morning, they still call the huddle unless they're in a hurry up offense. They still get together and talk before they do anything. But that being said, I mean, those players practice and practice, and yet they I mean, if you think you're going to do that, that being part of the team, not part of the furniture. If you think
and play at a high level, at a professional level. Gordon Graham sent me a book, and I don't want to take a lot of time, but he sent me a book called Going Pro by Tony Kearns. We love Gordon Graham. And in there, there you go. And he talks about 3 levels of professional, right? A level 1 is competent enough to be a member if you're a volunteer or earn a paycheck. A level 2 professional will fit into wherever you put him. You put him in a high-performance engine company, he's going to be a high performer. You put him in a cuckoo's nest, he's going to become a cuckoo bird. A level 3 professional, if we're going to say we're professionals, the highest level of professionalism is committed to continual improvement. That's right from Tony Kearns and Going Pro. So if we're going to say we're professionals, then we're constantly learning. We're constantly, and especially in this day and time, when new stuff comes out every day with the UL stuff and the firefighter rescue surveys and God rest his soul, what was going on with Project Mayday and Don Abbott. I mean, every day there's something new. There's no excuse.
And Scott,
my opinion.
Well, you look at some of our buddies, our circle of friends we run with, and people like Captain Bill Gustin from Miami, Metro-Dade, and you look at Bill, and you look at John Salk, and you look at those guys, and you go to a conference, and they're done teaching or whatever, and Joe Shit the Ragman's up there teaching somebody else. You know what I'm saying? They're up there, and you look in the front row, not in the back row. You look at the front row, and there's Bill Gustin with a pad of paper taking notes.
Rick, I just had John Norman sit through my class in Pensacola. John Norman sit in my class. I was like, I almost panicked. I had anxiety. But he was there taking notes.
So what? I know that anxiety. Tom Brennan did that to me once. So what's the excuse for the rest of them that don't think they need to train? Like we said, why? As we used to tell the company officers, why would you not want to train your people for a job that could kill them? I don't understand why you're not out there going, guys, come here, guys, come here. And who doesn't want to have fun? It doesn't mean you have to be crawling through tunnels all the time, and you don't have to be all smoked up. But sometimes just sit and have it. You and I love the tabletop. Sometimes you grab a cup. Sit down, guys. Come here. Let's talk about that fire.
Let's have a whiteboard or a magazine cover, and let's talk about tactics, strategy, building construction, fire behavior.
Exactly. Let's talk about. I mean,
we're riding back from a call. Hey, what type building is that?
My engine, Wichita West, smaller volunteer department, a great fire department. I got a great boss at Ryan Fetzer, and I can't tell how many times I sit sideways. I ride side saddle in the front seat because I'm always going. We're always talking, and you and I and the guys we run with, we love taking every and moment and turning it into a teaching moment. What can we talk about? What can we learn? And again, I always go back to that word competitiveness. when we talk about, and you've heard me say this about, I use it in my Pride and Ownership class, the definition of pride, which is something you can't explain from the outside looking in, the inside looking out. That pride is a personal commitment. There are no such thing as proud teams. There are proud individuals that make up excellent teams. But I'm not the best at math because I went to public school. But shit plus shit equals shit. All right, you put great people that are in the job on the same team, you end up with great teams. It's what separates excellence from mediocrity. But the competition you have is not with anybody else. So I put that definition of the competition is with yourself. We talked about this before. The bar you raise is not for, we're going to raise the bar for people to follow. No, you said it earlier about getting better. The bar you raise is for yourself. It's like, okay, now what do I have to do to be better?
Be the best version of yourself. And anybody can do it, but it takes some work.
Exactly. What do I have to do to be the best I could be and then not be satisfied? I would tell people never be satisfied. Never
going to be perfect. We're never.
Yeah. Never be satisfied, man. Just, what do I have to do to be better at what I'm doing? And you and I have been doing this a long time. So we have to.
And I learn something every day, Rick. Every time I talk to you, John, Curtis, every time I learn something. Curtis is up here. We were at the truck yard having cocktails, talking fire. And I, spent 2 hours with Curtis. I learned stuff.
Oh, it's the people we run with. I mean, we got a great conference coming up here, FDIC, that we both teach at and hang out and everything else. But when you think you get to a point where you know it all, and I've said this for decades, know-it-alls and perfect people get you hurt and killed. But even more so, the higher up you climb on that ladder of responsibility, from company officer, to battalion chief, maybe a shift commander position, to a deputy. When you make chief of department, some of these guys use the excuse, well, that's what I'm a staff for. I don't have to go to fires anymore. Well, I'm not saying you have to go to every dumpster fire. But secondly, we tell some of the BC, Scott, if you don't get out once in a while and drive by and see how you guys are doing in an accident scene or at a dumpster fire, how do you know they're wearing their shit? How do you know that they're parked the right way at an MVA blocking? How do you know they have their, how do you know? Not that you're micromanaging. That's not micromanaging. That's called supervising. Once in a while, you just have to drive by to make sure, because
and every company in the world has a checks and balance system to do that. It's not micromanaging. It's investing in your people. It's saying, hey, everybody gets a little sloppy. Everybody gets a little laid back. I'm going to give you a nudge. I'm not going to call you out. I'm just going to say, hey, let's think about this. And this is why.
Exactly. Well, so what advice would you give? What advice would you give to a chief? We've been talking about getting to City Hall and fighting for our people, for the staffing, more apparatus, training facilities, things that, some places you're lucky, you just go in there and ask for stuff and they go, okay, go ahead. A lot of places don't have that luxury. You have to really go in there and fight and plan and have a strategy, and sometimes it takes year after year. Perseverance pays off, right? Those kinds of things. To get some of these bosses to let their guys play firefighter, everything we just talked about, from Ryan assignments to, I don't know, trust them or whatever. But what would you say if you had a bunch of chiefs just having coffee with at a conference and some of those hesitancies came up and they said, Scott, well, how do I change that? Or what do I do?
Rick, I always tell everybody the first thing you got to do is to be able to define success, what it looks like. If you don't know what success looks like, what do we work towards every day? And I always say, go out to your deer stand or, smoke your cigar, drink your bourbon, whatever you do with a blank piece of paper. And really, if I'm a fire chief and somebody comes up to me and says, Scott Thompson, what does success look like in the Colony Fire Department? I don't have an answer for that other than 5-minute response times under 5 minutes. That's not very invested. The second thing I would say, understand the job that a majority of your organization is doing, which are the firefighters, right? They're the biggest part of it. Now, again, you don't have to be the best at pulling hose, the fastest at throwing ladders, but understand the job so you can support them and you can communicate to those leaders what the men and women in the organization are doing every day, the fights they're fighting, the challenges. And then as you get momentum, when you recognize right, put that feedback and say, yeah, we're going in the right direction. When we're not, have the courage and the knowledge, because you know what they're doing, to make correction and get back on the right track. And if you're going out and try to hire the best firefighters, you do a written test and a PAT and background, you want to hire the best firefighters. It's what you said. When you hire them and get them on board, let them be firefighters. Don't try to change them and make them something else.
Right. It just, and you made me think of something else. we both know Tommy Richardson ended up retiring as chief of department in New York City. Now he's been a volley on Long Island, commissioner of department. When he made chief of department, one of the first things he did, Scott, if you remember, was he actually went out and rode an ambulance for 24 hours. He actually went out and said, all right, you've been talking about this. I want to see firsthand. He went and rode with battalion chiefs. This is the 5-star, you talk 11,500, on suppression side, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that side, and then you got 250 dispatchers, 1,800 people in fire prevention and staff, another 5,000 EMS, whatever. But good guy, he went out and rode the rigs and talked to the troops about why. Tell me, okay, you've been bitching, you've been complaining, whatever. Show me what you're talking about.
Show me.
And if I said this before, if the guy from the biggest fire department in North America can go out and do that, what's the rest of our excuses?
Bobby Hoff, who we both know, was when he was the commissioner in Chicago, he was a volley department right next door, riding for a 23-year-old lieutenant backwards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the Evergreen Park Fire Department, yeah. Bobby. Yeah, exactly.
As commissioner of Chicago Fire Department, he's a volley and riding backwards as a fireman.
So what do you say? What do you say? Let's bump it down to as we're moving towards the end here. All right, you gave your advice to the chief. What do you say to the company officers who are trying to balance maybe working for a boss that may not be as enthusiastic about some of the things we talked about, yet he has or she has firefighters that want to be like they are in a colony. They want to be the firefighters like they hear about in a colony that just go after it. And that what do you tell that captain lieutenant?
Well, I mean, I think they got to remember first that they're agents of the city, right? You've got to protect the city because that's who gives you the position. But the most important thing to me, Rick, is staying relevant. And one of the things that I'm really concerned about, and I'm seeing now, and we'll talk about Wichita really quick, but right now, if you're a motivated firefighter, just about any week of the year, and FDIC is coming up, but there's a ton of other conferences out there. There's always an opportunity to go get better if you want to do it. But if you're the old salty guy or the company officer says, I don't have to do that anymore, yet your firefighters are going out every chance they get and they're learning how to force doors from Sam Hiddle, or they're learning saws from Seth Taylor, they're not going to be the most experienced, but all of a sudden they're going to be the smartest guys in the firehouse. And people are going to see that. And if the company officer hasn't been staying relevant and dialed into what he or she is supervising, the responsibilities that they have, they're going to lose the house. And let's go back to roll call for a minute. I think it's hugely important. And I say company officers who don't do a roll call are giving away leadership. To me, that's the best time of the day to practice leadership, to set the crew up for success, to talk about that vision of success, to set some goals for the day, talk about drilling, check on the mental and physical condition of your people, and start the day off on a positive note. I say maybe Sally, is dealing with a sick mom and she's in hospice. I got to know about that.
Right.
Mike's over there wiping his nose on his job shirt. I'm like, hey, Mike, do you got a cold? Or you doped up on NyQuil or something? I need to know those things. Just getting engaged and investing. Leadership is about investment and sacrifice. And you got to ask yourself at the end of every tour, what did you invest and what did you sacrifice? If you're not doing either, then you shouldn't be wearing these.
I like that. That's a great point because, I mean, like you say that John always says, Salko always says, that, the company officer is the linchpin between fire admin and the troops.
You got to make it work.
It's just, you've got to figure it out. You've got to figure out how to be that linchpin between the two, and loyalty up. All right, sorry about that. We had a little power outage here right towards the end of the show, but we didn't want to lose that information for you, especially with our great guest, Chief Scott Thompson. So we didn't want to lose that for you. But let me finish that last quote that I was given to you, and that was it's from Rear Admiral Grace Hopper, who's a pretty incredible woman with the Navy. Unbelievable what she was able to do in the way of history, let alone have an impact on her people. But the quote from Rear Admiral Grace Hopper was, loyalty up, loyalty down, respect for one's superiors, care for one's crews. So it is about, we talked about that company officer being that linchpin, being between admin and your firefighters. No matter where you're at, that ladder responsibility, loyalty up, loyalty down, again, care for for one's crew, and respect for one's superiors is the way to make that happen. Scott and I wanted to mention to you that we'll both be at FDIC. Scott's going to be doing a workshop, I believe, on Tuesday. You won't want to miss that. Anything Scott does is incredible. John Salk and I will be on Monday doing our workshop, organizing the fire ground. Wednesday, we'll be doing the 3 Degrees of Mayday from 1:30 to 3:15, a breakout session. And you don't want to miss Wednesday evening from 5:30 to about 7:15. We'll be doing a memorial, a tribute to an incredible man, a great leader, a mentor, one of my best friends, Chief Bobby Halton. That'll be in a big room. His family will be there. You won't want to miss that if you're in Indy. And aside from us being in a book booth, signing all week long and doing some great things with some different people, Friday from 2:30 to 4:30, Chief Salka and I will be at the Dingus Fire booth from 2:30 to 4:30, doing a book signing. They're working with us on some of the books they want to get to some folks out there. So come and see us. Stop by the booth there. We'd love to talk to you. You can catch some great shows, some great podcasts right here at fireengineering.com, not just the command post, but with some great people throughout the week here. John and I are always honored that you're here with us. He'll be back with us next show. Like I said, he's on the road, but we had a great guest today, Chief Scott Thompson from the Colony. Scott's our good friend, been teaching with us at FDIC for just about ever. Great boss. The Colony's a great fire department. If you want to work for a boss and want to work with firefighters and officers who get it, that's the place you want to go. That's the place you want to go. So you can catch Scott if you need to get him an email or reach out to him. He is at sthompson at thecolonytx.gov. sthompson at thecolonytx.gov. I'm Chief Lasky at gmail.com. You can catch Chief Salka at chiefjohnsalka@gmail.com. And we always ask you as we close out our programs to please keep the men and women serving our armed forces in your thoughts and prayers. And remember, never forgetting means just that, never forgetting. God bless our troops and God bless the fire service. Thank you. Be safe, and we'll talk to you next time.